Bye, baby.
Great. Like I said before the let's go ahead and just use the same guidelines we've been using, and they seem to be working well. So, first. Somebody want to jump out there and be in the hot seat?
I'm in the hot seat.
Okay. Go ahead, Jessica.
I had Jessica.
Okay.
I can start. I guess I'll start with OMA, component A. I thought that was written really well. There was some, I guess, grammar stuff, and I just put that. I'm not gonna go into much detail, but I put that in the peer review that I sent, using acronyms like SLT without saying what it was, type of stuff, some spelling issues. The thing that I noticed was I've always been taught to use APA style, and I think it's another format that Jessica's using, but my professor was really strong about APA in my previous classes. And then in the end, the reference section, I would just include the census information. She said in text, but not in the reference part. I would include it there. She made reference to research information, but didn't cite the researchers. I think that would help the students in the paper. She actually put the research in the text and then at the end to kind of strengthen, especially that first part of the rubric. I like how she put the descriptors addressed section, but just going into detail about how those descriptors were actually met. So that was A. You want me to do B? Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do A and B.
A and B, okay. In B, there was just a couple of issues with acronyms. Again, PD was used, but didn't say professional development. Page 4, there was a ways. That seemed a little strange. And there was no reference page or descriptors. To me, component B was a difficult one. It wasn't clear to me what they wanted. So what I did is I looked at Dale's notes, and that's what I kind of made reference to in Jessica's and her peer review. There's a section there that says to use the @tail, and I kind of put that in hers, but it was very vague to me. It needed direction for me, so I just sort of put in there what I did and how Dale's notes kind of had you kind of maneuver it. So that was A and B.
Okay. I did Jessica's A and B. I'll start with A first. As far as like the course content, I put to add additional sources to support your artifact as it relates to contextual analysis. As far as like the rubric being unpacked, I had just a little difficulty following the flow of it. So I would suggest including that about student achievement, the number of teachers in each grade, and maybe adding a visual of the master or applicable schedule and breakdown of the daily expectations. I would suggest adding detailed information for staff and students. Also include pertinent information at the national level as you did for the district and state. Also, I would suggest adding other staff that were involved in that process if you could. Refer to all the suggestions from all of your peer reviewers. Have the descriptors at the beginning. I said just to try to include them within the artifact. That way, if you do have an outside reader, they can understand why those descriptors are at the beginning of your artifact. Also, on your reference page, I would say have a separate page because I think it was just right at the end of that artifact. So that was A. I move on to B. Let me see. Again, this time add additional resources as it relates to instructional capacity within the building. Add information, if you could, about how the team worked together to improve instructional practices and increase student achievement based on the data presented in your artifact. I didn't see any descriptors in this, but then again, I would say go refer to the MELS handbook, look at the list of descriptors, and add them accordingly. With this artifact, of course, no reference page, but that's an easy fix. Also, once you look at the suggestions from all of your peer reviewers, I encourage you to follow the rubric as outlined in the handbook. Make it flow a little bit easier. So that was A and B for me.
Great. Do you have anything that you need to address with them?
Chinatti, you said the AppTel,
Yeah.
and where did you find that? Like,
I referenced that in your peer thing, and I did the exact quote. It's in Dale's notes. There's no page number on it. I'm gonna show you I'm gonna show it to you.
I think it's for A and B is what they said that is.
what notes are those?
Well, my intern professor gave me something called Dale's notes, and in those notes it kind of breaks down further the and I can send it to you electronically.
Yeah, I've never
by
seen
email.
And
And it kind of breaks down B, and it basically says that it's the AppTel, it's best practices used in looking at the gaps between the AppTel, and that's kind of how I went about kind of writing. Because it gives like an example, and it says this is a teacher empowerment component of the AppTel, where you identify teachers using best practices and use them to work with teachers who are not.
Okay, yeah. Could you send me that if you have it?
I'll send you all the Dale's notes that I have.
I've never seen that.
It-
Okay, that'd be awesome.
It's far from being a requirement, though, Jessica, to use that AppTel, this
Right.
that you already did. I mean, I didn't read yours, but the Dale's notes that she's referring to is more or less like kind of almost like a cheat sheet, which will help you solidify things. But you
So
don't.
vague. It was like really, but that would have helped. Okay, cool. Thanks.
All
All
right.
right. I'm good.
Lashonda, let's do yours next.
okay. All right, I'll turn.
Okay.
They found yours. All right. I did Lashonda, and who else?
I did hers too, but you go ahead.
Roll it up. I'm sorry. Like you said earlier when we talked, we were just chit chatting before the meeting. Your this is definitely the longest one I've seen. Done. It was obvious you put a lot of work into it. I'll be on here. You successfully unpacked the rubric on this one. It's professionally written. Not sure the acronyms as I was reading through, like your school name. Switch from using your school name to using the acronym for it. Just make sure that's clear. I know it's nitpicky, but it's one thing that I think we're looking for. Also, with BIS, it's in there. You've included that you're using BIS in your school, which is a great part of the artifact. But you need to let them know before you start saying PBIS. Just put it in parentheses and let them know. You have great graph artifacts. Just make sure as you go through, you label all of the graphs or the supplemental materials that you put in. You did that towards the end of the artifact, but there were a couple at the beginning where you didn't put it in there, and I think it would just be helpful to refer to it in the text. What else I got you on there? You cited all your references. And I believe that was it. I thought you did a great job. I said make a few little edits, and you'll be ready for task screen. Part B. I'm gonna pull that one up. Part B. I believe. And again, Part B was one of those where it was kind of crazy. Can you hear me? Can you hear?
Okay, that's better.
Okay. As far as your descriptors in Part B, you wrote in your artifact where the descriptors were You didn't go in, and it was obvious that the school had addressed descriptors, but in your narrative, if I were you, I would include a little more detail as to how you were part of the actual process. On that one, it was written very professionally. Also, the professional development on that one, I believe you said that the data would be used in walkthroughs in the future. You might want to address who's going to implement the walkthroughs and how you're going to use that evaluation.
Okay. I did Lashonda's as well. And I'm looking at A first. I thought the research into the purpose at the very beginning was nice. The only part of the rubric that I didn't address explicitly was it says, in addition, the analysis includes a critique of the current structures and procedures in terms of equitability and transparency. So I'm not sure that I saw that in your rubric, except for as you were talking about it, but there wasn't a reflection of the equitability and transparency of those procedures as you go along. But everything else I can see you clearly understand, you clearly identify, the descriptors are there. Your narrative is obviously very thorough and has a lot of attention to detail. I didn't see any mechanical things. Clearly, the structure is logical, and I can see like where it follows. But I like it when the parts of the rubric kind of like use the same language, so you kind of clues you to that's what you're looking at on the rubric, but you follow the rubric. But it's a little nice to see it explicitly done. On the copy that I downloaded from Blackboard, there was some spacing issues with the reference page, and you were missing the hanging indent, and they need to be in alphabetical order. But other than that, it looks great on the A.
Okay.
Yeah. Use the teacher working edition survey and research from sources to show those best practices, which is good. You're still looking for more data to see more accurate and more reliable. And so I said that I can tell this part's kind of in the beginning stages, and you have to have that further data to really the formative assessment part, but it looks good at this point. There's descriptors present. Again, the reference page, the one that I downloaded, and that might be because I downloaded it to a Mac and it looks a little different. So only take that with a grain of salt. That's what I saw, but it may not be true. Other than that, it looks great. Ready to turn in.
There we go. Do you have any questions?
No, that sounds good. I appreciate it so much.
Let's do Drew's next.
Okay.
Internal context, external how the person provides relating information and the inclusion of the
Donna, I can't hear anything you're saying. I can't hear like anything else.
I can't hear either. That was just me.
Okay, yeah, I was just making sure. I can't hear like anything.
I can't hear.
Maybe we should go to the next person and see if you get that straightened out.
Okay, you want to just move?
Actually, I hear you now. Yeah. No, we're good. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know what that was. Okay. I'll start over. I'll be quick. All right. Very good. It was a strong artifact. Like I said, chilling was a good choice for parts of the artifact. Internal context, external context, all of that was present. I would only suggest adding information at the national level. I did see district and state. Rules and procedures from the artifact, the analysis and critique of the structures, the inclusion of the school improvement team and school personnel and budget and resource. I kind of went through the rubric to see what you had. You did state the contribution of each of these beginning on page 22 of your artifact. It's clear you understand the requirements of the artifact. As far as mechanics and grammar, I didn't see anything major, but I did put in here, I would suggest capitalizing the T in task stream on page 24, but I put that in your peer review. It's very organized and structured, and it supports items discussed in the narrative. It did align with the descriptors that are in the handbook. I was just looking at the sections of your artifact that discuss planning and instructional time and add descriptor 2B. And that's just a suggestion where it adheres to legal requirements for planning and instructional time. And the reference page, awesome job. It was an APA format from what I could see, and I would just suggest placing your references on a separate page. All right, so moving on to 4B. 4B, overall, awesome job with this one. You reference appropriate sources such as Marzano to support the narrative. As far as like unpacking the rubric, all tasks were unpacked. You had a presentation of the results and data to the OMA PLT. You had the recommendations and the suggested solutions based on the results. You did understand the requirements of the artifacts and what I observed. The survey, the results, comments, suggestions from staff were also included in this artifact. Mechanics and grammar on point. The organization was on point. The descriptors, you included 4 applicable descriptors as outlined in the MELS handbook, and I would just suggest placing your references on a separate page, but there was nothing major here. So overall, good job.
Okay, and I did these as well. So looking at A first, it was definitely in the beginning, the content aligned. There's definitely, you've got all the law and policy addressed and referenced well. The same as Lashonda, the part of the rubric that I'm missing is that the candidate or the analysis includes a critique of current structures and procedures in terms of equitability and transparency. I wonder if as teachers we're super loyal to our principals because we're trying to be principals and don't want to critique equitability and transparency, but I didn't see that explicitly. There were times where I could see like you referencing it, but not like a section where you did a critique of in terms of equitability and transparency. Every other part of the rubric I can see addressed clearly. The descriptors are there. The narrative is thorough. It's really easy to read. Definitely attention to all the details of the policy and the law and all that stuff. No mechanical errors that I saw. Your structure is good. Descriptor is good. References look good. This is almost ready for task stream. And then B, B is there as well. Yeah, your references are good, descriptors good. I think all parts of the rubric are really clear. You can definitely tell you're a part of the participation in the team, and that's really clear, which is important. You have lots of different forms of evaluation, which I thought was good. The instructional rounds, peer observations, and survey was good. So yeah, no mechanical errors. I liked in the evaluation of the survey that you had headings and subheadings for every question. You really evaluated throughout, so that was really good. I think this one looks ready for task stream to me.
Do you have any questions for him?
Yes. Jessica, what part of the proficient part of the rubric are you talking about with transparency of critique of administrations and stuff? Because I want to make sure I hit on that.
Yeah, it's in the accomplished section.
Oh, the accomplished, but it's not in the proficient section, right?
No, I'm super overachiever. Sorry about that.
I understand. Yeah, I was looking at the proficient section, so that's probably.
Yeah. The accomplished section has a part that you critique the current structures. So not necessary.
I might be good with proficient, but all right. And then the other thing is, do you guys know, I just have a question because I heard you say it, Lashonda, it's a good point. I was having trouble finding federal components. IDEA, are you familiar with that? Like the policy, the disabilities thing? Is that a federal component?
It's federal. Yeah, it's federal. It's part of No Child Left Behind.
Okay.
So you should be able to find it.
I need to make sure I reference that a little more clear. Okay, thank you very much. That was good critique.
And you need that for OMA
V.
C.
Let's then do Chinetta's next. Mine is going to be a train wreck. That's why we're waiting till the end. So if we run out of time, it's all good because I know it's a train wreck. So Chinetta, if you don't mind going next.
Okay.
I know I evaluated you. I'll go ahead on yours. She and I had a brief conversation back before my little technical fiasco, and it is obvious that she has spent a ton of time on this artifact. At this point, I would say with just a couple of minor edits that you're ready to go ahead and submit for task stream. Professionally written. In your reflection section, there was one grammatical error, and I noted that on your peer review that I gave you. You referenced in your artifact that you had clearly worked towards clearly worked towards the descriptors. But then what I really liked is that you also had a reflection section. Because as I'm going through the artifacts, it's never been made clear, and we talked about this one time before, whether you need to list in bold and identify exactly where the descriptors are. But at the end of yours in your reflection, you clearly tell exactly how you participated in the process and implemented the descriptors. On B, again, you did an incredible job on Part B. That one, you went through, it was very clear what the professional development was. You had your walkthrough process, and your data was actually noted from where you had time to walk through, which was nice. And again, in the reflection, I noted that your descriptors were covered there, and it was very obvious that all the descriptors and impact the rubric well.
All right. Are you done, Leigh?
Yes.
All right. So, Nada, you did a fantastic job. This is a beast. I have to print all mine out because, like, I just can't look at it. Like, this thing is enormous.
Yes.
65 pages, dude. But I found time to look at it today, and I like how you included. It was really hard to find things that were not super wonderful about this document. I like how you included some of the references to course readings. Obviously, you embed your evidences directly into the correlating narrative, which is really easy to understand. If I'm somebody who's grading your work, that makes it easy for me. So I think that's big time. I like how your descriptors are also embedded, and I even saw that they were at the very end where you had that reflection. You talk about how you met the descriptors, which makes it super easy to give you an A++. Your references were appropriate. I think anyone could go into yours, or I think anyone could read this enormous document and know exactly everything that's going on in your school. And I would estimate that you probably learned a lot about your school by creating this document. So I would say that that's actually a really good thing for you, is probably beneficial, because I think you put in a lot of work to figure out every single in and out of the organization of your document. And I learned a lot doing the OMA, but I think you must know, daggone, you should be the superintendent of your county. And then the only negative I could find with Part A was in figure 49 and 50. This is just something like that's aesthetically pleasing to me. I would recommend not double spacing inside the first. Okay, figure 49, let me start over. Figure 49 and 50, there's a data table. In the first column, I would recommend single spacing that, even though it's not, I'm not sure if that has to be for APS format, but it just runs on so long with that one single column that it looks sort of odd to have so many empty spaces in the other three columns, if you understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
Let's see. For Part B, it's the same type of thing. My positives, I think you demonstrated understanding of an equitable, fair approach to evaluation. You used that APTEL A and B that you already did a fantastic job on. but you also added in some of the legal requirements, and it's clear by your work with the PLT and the admin team that you were adhering to those legal requirements. The only negative I could find, because it was impossible for me to find one, was in figure 7. There's 2 random rows that you need to delete at the bottom of the table to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Figure 7.
That was digging.
Okay, I'll come back.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, my turn.
Okay.
Who else had Leigh?
Let's see, I had Leigh.
You can go ahead.
Okay. Leigh A. The suggestion for the first part for the synthesis of information, just, to include something like Marzano or something like that. The rubric requirements for A, I feel like you've got a good start. I can tell you're unpacking the rubric. It looks really good. I would add a work cited section. I'm skipping around. I'm sorry. There were some kind of grammatical errors and things, and I put that on your peer review sheet. I would add the work cited. I'd add I like how you added an appendix this time. I could tell you're doing more. I would just put an appendix header, like appendix, and then start with your appendices A, B, and file them. Again, I'd place the descriptors in the narrative or in a separate section. But I like how you included your schedule. You did have some appendices, and you have more sections. You have more narrative now. I can see you're getting more in the meat of it. I would just continue it. I think it's a good start. For B, the first thing that I caught my attention was on page 1. It still has your name here. I just put your name there. Page 2, members. I don't know why I had that on this paper now. There was an issue with that, with I think the structure, the grammar. The positives were you have a survey in your artifact. I like the graph you have. I like those data tables. I think that's really good. Again, I think you're off to a good start. Again, I would add, just add your reference page, your descriptors, and just continue with your narrative. I think they're both at a good starting place. All right, sure.
Okay. Stay with 3, it says. Okay, we have 10 more minutes, so that should be good. Leigh, for part A, I noticed that you had more narrative. I think I've reviewed yours every single time, even though we've been switching up. I noticed there was more narrative in part A than I've seen in some of your others, and it was actually beneficial narrative. I thought you did a good job. As I'm going through, it would be beneficial to add page numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the 5th page, there's just you need to, on the 2nd line, you need to add a period after the parentheses documents that can be found in the appendix, because it's just floating there right now. I like how, well, let's see, under duty schedules on that save page, I think it might be a good idea. If I'm a reviewer, I would like to see an example of that survey that you talk about being sent. If you just embed that document, that would be nice. I like how you referenced the teacher working condition survey in respect to the maintenance operations concern that you spoke of, and how it was low on the teacher working condition survey. That was a good correlation. I'm jealous that all of your staff receive 85-minute planning periods. I think you did a great job including a description of how the SIT team had an impact on the budget, which was part of the proficiency column, and I guess the accomplished column as well, obviously, to go ahead and knock out this artifact. Some things I think you could work on would be add the descriptors maybe to the end of the document, or embed them. You need to add in 5A1, 5A2, 5D1, and 5D2 specifically. I like how you had the appendices at the end, of the document, but they kind of need some formatting work. I'm not sure if it's the way I printed it off, because like I said, I have to look at it hard copy. I can't sit there and look at a screen, but things were off-centered and they were a little bit hard to look at, to follow, I mean. So just with some quick formatting in Word, you'll be good to go. Maybe adding figure numbers. I prefer to embed my documents and evidences in the actual document, but I'm not sure if that's frowned upon by some professors, and I think it's fine to have appendices at the end. It's just if I'm sitting here trying to grade it, I like to see it right there. Don't forget that if you add some type of evidence, you need to have a link cited, like some references, and that's part of it. Part B.
No.
You mentioned it, but don't forget to throw your name on there wherever it says your name here on page 1. All right. On page 2, please, sorry, I'm like not going through the rubric, but rather just going through your page. In all honesty, I haven't had time to go through the rubric yet. Okay. You need to add a comma on page 2 after the second paragraph after members, with the help of other committee members, comma. I like how you added figure 1. So you got your figures embedded in this document. Good job showing evidence of collaboration with that figure. And then you go through and have all the graphs and the data embedded in the document. You did a great job showing your work with the SIT team and collaborative efforts to review self-created data. I would work on displaying evidence of legal requirements for evaluation as noted in the proficiency column of the rubric. You may need to display efforts to comply with those legal requirements in there. You also need to have evidence of descriptors 4C2, 5A2, and 6B1, which I think that you're doing, but it might be a good idea to have those at the very end of your document or embedded within. And don't forget, if you add, that book that we had to buy for this course, it's called Principles Quick Reference or something like that for school law that we have to read in.
Right.
That's the perfect opportunity to go ahead and get that thing in there, add a little quote here and there inside the document, and then put it in your works cited, and all of a sudden it looks a little bit more professional. But other than that, I think it was a fantastic job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is that everybody?
I think it is. We finished in record time. No, we didn't. We got Lashonda.
Oh,
That was Lashonda? No, we did Lashonda.
Yeah, I think we might have finished in record time.
Yeah, we just actually ended with time to spare this time.
wow.
Well, I'm going to stop recording then.
Yeah.